how we take actions and the actions that we take out of the decisions we've made impact all of us, especially if that decision is made from fear or anxiety. That actually is impacting everybody. So, first of all, making that decision from anxiety and fear, we become dumber. You probably can say some things about that. But it's like all of us kind of jump into that ripple effect that happens when we take these kinds of actions without the witness stepping back and saying, wait a minute, let's look at this. So it seems to me then taking this space so that we're not reacting from anxiety and fear, and so we're not going to perpetuate anxiety and fear in the culture, is a pretty important thing to do, what you're pointing to about taking a pause between moments and extending out the time when we take action. Can you say a little more about the anxiety and fear?
Sure. Well, the research says that the minute you make that move, instead of moving to the witness, you're affected by and you get present to, um, or maybe you're not aware of it. You've been moved to anxiety, fear, and doubt, or the downline from that. That immediately you lose IQ points. You literally become dumber and less resourceful. So whatever you decide from that, even if you imagine you're being logical or even intuitive or intuitively logical, the foundation for that coming from fear, doubt, and anxiety will be less resourceful than if you were coming to that same way of being with the challenge from poise, from the witness. So as an executive skill, as a life skill,
Yeah.
if you can just pause for a moment, you maybe as little as 30 seconds, if you can just step back, if you can make that U-turn from out there to present witness inside, then you sidestep the anxiety, fear, and doubt dumbing down moment.
Mm-hmm.
You have access to your resources, you have access to your skill, and your awake, aware self, your witness self, is fully aware of all the things you're figuring would have you get present to, all of your linear, logical reasoning. Your awake, aware witness self is aware of all of those and remembers all those skills. And at the same time, then, has access to a larger scope. And so the benefit then is that maybe paradoxically, it transcends whether the question is logic or intuition, and it transcends reaction and response. You will get to a response that's not funded on a reaction from your past, triggers from your past. You will get to that. Moving to the witness, though, allows you the space, again, that beginner's mind, that place that actually has access to something that's new and different, the incoming from the future, that you are, again, your possibility of responding eventually from that place of witness means that you have a chance of co-sensing and co-presencing what will be created with the future that wants to happen for yourself and your enterprise. So that what gets rolled out in your enterprise is more skillful and is moving in the direction that might up level whatever it is that's moving out there and becomes a catalyst for the ripple effect of a possibility that may not have emerged coming from reaction.
Yeah. It seems to me that that we've built our reality around technology and the speed with which things are moving. And to what you just said, we wouldn't to continue to hold reality like, oh, it's just that way, rather than develop the ability to step back into the witness. It seems to me that we miss the opportunity to what you just pointed to really understand what it is to co-presence and co-create with the future that wants to happen. In that space of kind of timelessness, when you step back into the witness, you can use both intuition and logic, like you were saying. And so for us to recognize that we have structured reality around technology and the speed that that has been like at one point you talked about a meme, and that we design our reality around the meme, and then the meme creates you. And so the speed of technology as a kind of a meme has created our reality. And what you're pointing to, Daniel, seems to me that's the practice of stepping back into a witness gives you the ability to hold a question over time.
Yeah, the skill that we might say is a highly valued skill of a leader, of an executive person, would be the ability and the executive function of our brain-mind system, the prefrontal cortex, is the ability to hold a question and to hold
Mhm.
that question over time and to allow that question to marinate or percolate or incubate in the deep self over time so that deeper levels of awareness then can make the correlations cross-functional, cross-discipline, cross-cultural. So that's what emerges is truly new, innovative, and different incoming from the future. Our only real ability to have that conversation with the future that wants to happen requires that ability to hold a question over time. When we abdicate the sovereignty of our choice in the rush to come to a decision, that ability to hold a question over time is lost. In that now enculturated thing that the meme creates. Like when you were saying that first we created cars, and now cars have recreated us. We build our cities around cars. Even though we talk about mass transit, we still create cities around cars. We created a smartphone, and now we build our lives around a smartphone, et cetera, et
Yeah,
cetera. So this now agent AI conversation, we created AI, and now AI is recreating us. That now I have a challenge, I have a question, I have a need. I go to the AI, and between us, we'll come up with something, and I depend on this AI to give me feedback immediately within seconds or minutes. And then at the end of my session, I'll have a decision.
right, right.
Is now contrary to our Hugh person ability to hold a question over time and resist the urge to immediately decide.
Yeah,
And there is a consequence to that. That the ability to hold a question over time allows us a perspective and a view that allows us to be present to the unprecedented that's incoming. And our reactive self and even our logical self, logic is built on experience from the past, and information and education that's built on the past. Information flows built on the past. Even AI is scraping the internet for what's here now and bases its advice based on what has already happened. That means that that's not accessing a future that wants to happen. It might be the past projected into the future. It's not the same as having a conversation with the future. So holding a question over time allows us to be in a conversation with life and
yeah,
the future that wants to happen and allow that cross-fertilization that the incubation allows,
yeah.
holding a question over time. So the skill of moving into the gap, moving into the pot, to have the poise, to not make up a story about what it means.
Mhm.
Certainly not within minutes. Possibly, though, could we train ourselves to ask the question, is it true that I have to decide right now? Is it true that my business will go away, my job will go away if I don't come up with a solution like right now? Is it true that my company needs to react or respond to this in the next week, in the next
Yeah.
2 weeks, in the next month? Is it
Mhm.
possible that we might have 6 months to decide?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Do we ask the question though?
Yeah.
So this skill of being able to hold a question over time relies to a great extent on your ability to step into that moment in between
Yeah.
before you just reaction or response, before you even go to what would my reasoning or logic tell me, or what would my intuition, right brain, left brain, intuition, logic, what is the space that holds all of those as one moment? Yes, a little bit out of time, which is a place of poise, which is actually the moment of power.
Yeah.
It's empowering to have that choice from a place of the witness who can hold it all as one presence.
This skill that you're pointing to seems to me is gonna, in the training of the witness, is gonna help us rebuild a different structure of mind that has the ability to transcend acceleration if needed. Like you said, maybe you need to go fast, maybe you don't. And to ask yourself those questions, is it true that I have to respond this quickly? That would start to help you get more present to what's emerging and what I need to pay attention to. The question for me then, Daniel, is so as we look at things that are happening in our world, like let's say the meta crisis, in which there are multiple wicked blooming problems, the usual way we have of speed conquers all and let's make some decisions quickly, and the conventional decision making that we have about let's figure it out, is different than what you're pointing to. And the skill set you're pointing to seems to be that's more what we need collectively as we address meta crisis or situations like executive orders, etc.
Well, I could say that at the far point, for instance, when things where we're present to the most chaos we can handle without it all falling apart, and the urge to immediately decide would be catalyzed by the
Yeah.
feeling that it's about to all fall apart.
Yeah.
Having an ongoing practice of moving to the witness, creating that pause, the space between, allowing us to have access to the poise of
Mm-hmm.
presence, means that even when we do have to decide very quickly, moving to the place of the witness gives us the skill to access our wiser, knowing deep self for the decision that does have to be made in the next 2 minutes. That's not going to happen in the most skillful way without the ability to move to the space between. So even if I have to decide in the next 2 minutes,
Right.
can I give myself 30 seconds to create no story,
Mm-hmm.
just present? Okay, so that happened. And just be present. That happened.
Yeah.
And if we had this as an ongoing practice, we will have built the skill to drop into that place quickly so that a decision can be made if that's actually needed within a couple of minutes, if that's actually needed. And if you've built that skill over time, you'll also have recognized that, contrary to this impulse, I don't have to decide right now.
Yeah.
And you will have the wisdom to say that. Let's breathe.
Yeah.
Or let's just take a moment and be present to this. And maybe present to the considerations that logic would tell you to be present to. You'd be present to it from a different place, though.
Yeah.
So, as a skill that one can build in the short term, is just begin to have the practice of recognizing the impulse to immediately decide and just not do that. Just pause and just be present to that impulse. Be present to contact was made, something showed up. That something inside us is telling us, um, warning, warning, Will Robinson. That's a blast from the past. But some sense of an emergency, right? Well, what if it's not? If we trained ourselves over time to be able to take that step back, we might, because we built that skill, be able to access an immediate decision from a wise, deep self place. We might also know we don't have to do that and can say so.
I think this is a really important skill for people to practice and to try out. The thing that occurs to me as you're saying, the more you practice that, the more that in a 30-second or a 60-second window, when you might really have an emergency, you still can access that space beyond the fear and anxiety, beyond the sort of urge to make it happen now. And it seems like that a person would be less burned out, less prone to that fight, flight, or fear, and more, is this a time for that? Or is this really a time I can slow it down and reflect? And so I encourage people to try out that practice because it will have an impact not just on your company, it'll have an impact on you as well in your well-being, to not have to constantly be on hyper vigilant alert to see, am I got what needs to happen now, what needs to happen now, what needs to happen now. We have time, mostly, seems like.
More than we imagine usually. And there is this, so that's in the moment emergency, and that, like, somebody who's worked a long time in an emergency room, I've heard you talk about this, has built that skill in this
Yeah.
person comes into the emergency room and something has to happen right now with this person, or they literally could die.
Yeah.
Working in the emergency room, having access to that poise is a skill that one would develop. You know, you've shared that.
Yeah.
So that's important. Also important, though, is the ability to hold a question over time.
Yeah.
And that poise that comes from building that skill in the short term and the long term is required. Both of those would be the skill of a leader for the 21st century. And the ability to practice that for the short term pays dividends for the long term.
Yes.
So that then what does happen when you've been able to hold the question without deciding for the larger why questions of your business? What's the business case of your business? What's the purpose of your business? Why is your business in business? And what is that meant to serve? And who is that meant to be in the world?
Yes.
The ability to hold a question over time, especially those questions over time, means that those questions will saturate how you make the short-term decisions and how you organize for the longer-term decisions. So that there's a coincident correspondence
Mhm.
in the interdependent arising of you and the ecosystem your business is embedded in, which maintains the why, what, and who. Why is my company in business? What is it meant to up level in the world? How is it meant to be in service? And who are we in the manner and how are we in the manner? The ability to do that without surrendering that to the
Mhm.
chaos of the meta crisis requires you to hold the ability to hold a question over time and to be in that beginner's mind witness place often enough to stand in the center of the hurricane of the meta crisis with full presence and sovereignty. And be that person who, while the rest of the world is losing their mind, can be that calm center and say, now this, as a leader.